The CEO of LIV Golf, Greg Norman, seems to have a better relationship with Aussie Cameron Smith than his own protege, Adam Scott. Many people believe that this is because one of the obvious reasons: Greg's position in LIV Golf. However, there might just be more to that story. Stick around because this is something you do not want to miss. Rifts between Greg Norman and Adam Scott. Greg Norman has been a longtime mentor to fellow Aussie star Adam Scott. Scott's career has often paralleled Norman's on numerous occasions, and for the most part, the two seem to have immense respect for one another. However, rifts started to form between the former friends in 2021, when Greg Norman was announced as the CEO of a rebel golf league called LIV Golf. This was considered a stab in the back by practically everyone associated with PGA, an association that Norman has worked with for practically his entire career. Adam Scott was of course one of the players on PGA that was probably pretty devastated by the whole thing. To see your own mentor go off to promote a rival league must be pretty tough. However, he refrained from publicly talking about it, for the most part, so you can never really know how he truly felt about the whole thing. Many thought that, as Norman's former protege, Adam Scott would be among the first people that the new LIV CEO picks up for the Rebel League. However, that day never really came. To this day, there have been no news reports or anything about LIV making an offer to the former number 1 ranked player. That's not to say that they haven't made an offer. There's a possibility that Scott simply rejected whatever offer they gave him. However, if that were the case, we would have heard at least something about it. There was, however, another Aussie star that Norman did capture for LIV Golf, and he was their biggest signing to date. Cameron Smith joins LIV Golf. Throughout 2022, LIV Golf picked up one of the most biggest names in golf. Of course, they really couldn't sign the likes of Tiger Woods or Rory McIlroy, but one of the major names that they signed was Cameron Smith. Cam was ranked as number 2 golf player in the world at the time of his signing in August 2022. Although the move had been rumored for months, it was still so shocking to see a man so high up in the world of golf join a rival league. Of course, this wouldn't have been possible without the help of fellow Aussie Greg Norman, who just happened to be the CEO of LIV Golf. It was reported that the deal signed between Smith and LIV Golf was worth around $140 million, one of the biggest deals for a single player in golf history. However, it wasn't the money alone that propelled Smith into joining LIV. Greg Norman recently revealed how he managed to lure Smith into joining the Rebel League, and he brings up some very interesting points. Apparently, Norman promised Smith the partial ownership of a LIV-backed golf franchise in Australia. Noting how certain sports franchises from around the world have turned into billion-dollar business ventures, this offer was too good for Cam to pass up. On top of that, if there was one company that had the money to make a golf franchise league work, it was LIV Golf. Ultimately, Smith joined in on the LIV fun, and it seemed like Norman's own protege, Adam Scott, was left in the dust with no offer at all. Adam Scott talks about LIV. After more than a year of silence following his mentor's defection to LIV Golf, Adam Scott recently talked about the Rebel League in an interview. Unlike most players that are still associated with PGA, Scott was not too harsh with his words when it came to LIV. In fact, he was quite apologetic about the players that left. One of the interviewers asked Scott if he feels any animosity towards his former mentor for joining LIV, to which Scott replied, "Definitely not." He said that if LIV Golf is something Norman truly believes in, then he won't bash the man for simply following his dreams. He admitted that the entry of LIV into the scene has shaken up the world of golf, but he's optimistic that with time, some of the wounds will heal and the two leagues will learn to get along better. He also said that people's, most likely referring to Greg Norman, intentions are still good, so he doesn't hold a grudge over anyone joining the league. Scott also mentioned how he's still very close friends with some of the players that have joined LIV, such as Cameron Smith and Marc Leishman. This is in stark contrast to fellow PGA star Rory McIlroy's statement, where he said that it makes him sick what LIV is doing to the sport. McIlroy added that he dreaded seeing some of the defectors whenever he was on tour. But as far as Adam Scott is concerned, he doesn't have any hard feelings. At the end of the day, a sport is a sport. It doesn't really matter what organization you're playing for. He's not going to let company loyalty get in the way of some of his friendships. However, this still begs the question, why didn't Greg Norman also make an offer for Adam Scott to join LIV? It seems like he would have no problem at all joining the league. Scott talks about the prospect of joining LIV. As it turns out, we aren't the only ones who are wondering why Scott hasn't joined LIV yet. The player in question recently addressed some of the rumors surrounding the statements he has been making about LIV. Once again, Scott reiterated that he doesn't think LIV is pure evil. When talked about joining LIV, he confirmed that no one has made an offer to him so far. This is strange, since Scott is a former Masters champion, albeit it was all the way back in 2013. Surely, Scott must have some sort of value to bring to LIV, right? Well, around the same time, rumors were swirling that Greg Norman had sent over Cameron Smith and Marc Leishman to go and recruit the former Masters champion. However, it seems like those rumors were false. Scott addressed those rumors in a press conference and said, "As far as Cam and Leish recruiting me, they've got plenty of cash now, so they're more than welcome to make an offer." That statement might look like a joke at first, but people are starting to see it as much more than a throwaway line. Adam Scott just publicly said that he wouldn't mind being recruited into LIV. Of course, he would probably ask for a pretty big chunk of cash to do so, but hey, it's not like Saudi Arabia is running out of money anytime soon. Norman versus Scott. At this point, many people are still wondering why Greg Norman would sign Cameron Smith for LIV Golf but not Adam Scott. But it's all pretty easily explainable. For starters, Smith would bring far more value to LIV brand than Scott could. That's not to say that Scott is a bad player by any means. It simply means that he can't pull as much money as Smith can. At the same time, the main purpose of creating a Rebel League was to add value to it. Even though Scott has won a single Masters championship, he doesn't even come close to the accolades that Smith has won over the years. LIV is one organization that has a lot of money, mountain loads of it. However, that doesn't mean that it has unlimited money. At the end of the day, a former number one like Adam Scott would likely ask for a lot of money if LIV came to his table, especially when you consider how much they're paying some of the other players. Perhaps LIV would be better off signing some of the younger players instead of someone that's just a few years away from retirement. And finally, it's important to note that just because LIV hasn't approached Scott yet, it doesn't mean they're not going to approach him in the future. It's very likely that Scott will get an offer in the coming months and LIV is simply waiting for the right time to do so. While all of the lawsuits are going on, it's likely that LIV is trying to lay low. Once all of the drama settles, we should see the league try to get some more big names to sign, and Scott is probably at the top of the list. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think that Greg Norman will ever patch ties with Adam Scott? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, don't forget to like this video. See you in the next one.